Virgil discovers a yellow stone in the desolate desert. He wipes the dirt off it with his hand and realizes that it is a gold nugget. Looking at his partner Keith, who is not far away, he hesitates for a moment but finally decides to tell him.
Hey, just come here!
Keith comes over to check it out, then takes out a blowtorch to burn it. It does not have any change in color. They can be sure that this is a rare gold nugget. They immediately try to dig it out, but after an hour of digging they still can't see the whole picture of it. This is an enormous gold nugget. They try to pull it up together, but can't even move it a little bit. Then they tie a rope around the nugget and use the pickup truck to pull it, only to have the rope break. They have to keep digging, and after a few hours they decide to temporarily stop, because they are not sure how big the nugget really is. They have to think of another way. It is getting late, so the two collect some dead wood and set up a campfire next to the gold nugget. They are going to spend the night here. Thinking of the enormous gold nugget next to them, they couldn't help but cheer and celebrate. Now the most important question is how to dig up the gold and take it away. Keith says one of them has to go to town to find an excavator, and the other one needs to stay to guard the gold nugget. Keith says he's more used to the desert environment. He wants to stay. But Virgil is afraid that Keith will somehow take the gold nugget all to himself, so he says he must stay. Keith agrees. The next morning, they split the water and food, and Keith takes most of the water with him, saying he needs to use it to cool the car engine. Before leaving, Keith gives Virgil a satellite phone, which they will use to communicate. After Keith leaves, Virgil covers the gold nugget with sand, then uses a dead tree nearby to set up a simple tent. The next day, Virgil goes to collect firewood when he accidentally discovers a crashed plane. The wreckage of the plane makes a very good camp. It keeps the sand and sun out by day and the wild animals out by night. But the problem is, he can't see the gold nugget from this position. He wants to keep the gold nugget in sight. So he disassembles the plane's parts, drags them back to the gold nugget, and then uses them to reinforce his tent. Through the tent he can see the nugget clearly. He feels relieved, and then he goes to sleep. When he wakes up, he feels very weak and has a lot of blisters growing on his head. He endures the pain and hunger, and then limps over to the gold nugget. He has a new idea. He smashes off a piece of gold with a rock. It is as big as a football. Although he can't take all the gold, the piece he has is worth at least a few $1,000,000. This is his plan. Taking a piece of the gold is better than dying here. But then Keith calls. Keith says he has found an excavator. He needs Virgil to hold on for another 2 or 3 days. Under Keith's persuasion, Virgil decides to stay, even though he is extremely weak at this point. He has run out of food, and all he has left is a bottle of water. Suddenly, he notices a snake next to him. For a starving man, the snake is food, so he pounces on it with a knife. He fails to catch the snake, and what's worse is that he spills the water. The next day, Virgil goes back to the crashed plane to search for supplies. Suddenly, he sees someone walking toward him. He quickly hides in the plane and then hides his gold, but the woman eventually finds him. He pretends to be resting in the plane, then acts like a hungry man scavenging in the desert. But when the woman hands him a piece of dried snake, he refuses. He fears the woman will poison him. The woman becomes suspicious of Virgil, so she deliberately makes an exaggerated drinking gesture to lure him. She thinks Virgil is hiding something, so she follows him all the way. Soon she follows Virgil to his camp, and at the moment the gold nugget is just a few steps away from her. The woman begins to question Virgil about what he is doing here and what he is hiding. Virgil grabs a shovel and hits the woman on the head. The woman is killed instantly. Virgil takes her water and food, which will buy him one more day. He then digs a hole and buries the woman. But a wild dog smells the blood and drags the body out. Virgil rushes to get his shovel and drives the wild dog away. But then more wild dogs appear. They stare at Virgil, not attacking and not retreating. Apparently, they are waiting for their chance. Virgil has to burn the woman's body. The next morning, Keith finally calls Virgil. Virgil asks Keith where he is. Keith says he will be here in a few hours, and he tells Virgil to hold on a little longer. Then a car happens to pass by, but Virgil doesn't ask for help. He is afraid that others will know the secret of the gold. At noon, a sandstorm comes, and Virgil's tent shakes like crazy under the raging wind. He hurriedly takes his precious gold and escapes, and just as he crawls out, the tent is destroyed entirely. Later Virgil is hit by a tree. He wakes up to find a branch stuck in his belly, and he is seriously injured. But even so, he still wants to find the gold. He removes the sand in front of him, and he is finally relieved after confirming that this is the location of the gold nugget. After taking a break, he pulls the branch out. Then he set up a fire, heating a metal piece, and then presses it against his belly to stop the bleeding. Virgil passes out again because of the pain. Suddenly, he sees someone pointing a crossbow at him. It is the woman he killed, and Virgil thinks he must be hallucinating. After a while, Keith calls again, and he tells Virgil to keep guarding the gold nugget. He will be arriving soon. Virgil looks around. He doesn't see anyone, so he slowly crawls over to the gold nugget and covers it with sand. Just then, the woman appears again. She wants to help Virgil, but Virgil tells her to leave. He's afraid that she might discover the gold.
So you didn't see me, sister?
It turns out that this woman is the sister of the previous woman. Luckily, he burned the body, otherwise, the woman would definitely take revenge for her sister. The woman can't find her sister, so she leaves. A few hours later, Virgil wakes up to find himself surrounded by several campfires. The campfire protects him from wild animals, and apparently, the woman helped him while he was unconscious. But now the campfires are going out, and the long-awaited wild dogs have surrounded him. Virgil desperately urges Keith to come, but he gets no response. The wild dogs are getting closer and closer, and finally, they attack, while Virgil is still staring at the gold nugget. What he didn't know is that someone is watching him not far away. It was Keith. In fact, Keith arrived 2 days ago. He has been waiting for Virgil to die, so that Keith can take the gold alone. Next, Keith drags an excavator to the location of the gold nugget and is about to dig it up and take it away. Suddenly, he is shot in the chest with an arrow, dying next to Virgil. Apparently, it is the woman who made the shot, and maybe she has discovered the gold, maybe not. This is the end of the story. I'm Movie Ape, thanks for watching.